What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Struggle to Strength podcast, your source for real life application on how to turn your struggles into strengths in all things mind, muscle, and money. So I'm your host, Travis Hatch. Today we're doing things a little bit different. As of this recording, Josh is at Burning Man. So instead of coming to you with our regular programming, we're going to be repurposing an episode that I was on recently from Lachie Stuart at the Man That Can Project podcast. Lachie was a guest on our podcast earlier this year, and then he had me on to talk about my experience with losing my job during COVID, why that was the best thing ever, and how you can find the silver lining and pivot into something better, and how to identify really what you want in life and at least try to make that happen. Lachie has an epic podcast over in Brisbane, Australia. So if you like our show, and I'm sure you're going to like his, guy's a pro. He has a ton of valuable information, so go check it out. Before we get into it, if you like our show, please go give us a rating on YouTube and Spotify, and most importantly, Apple Podcasts. It really does help. So if you could do that, that'd be great. With no further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Man That Can Project podcast. I'm your host, Lachie Stuart, and today have an epic guest, and we're switching sides of the mic today. We've got Travis Hawks joining us from Denver, and that's Colorado, right?
That's right.
Currently 3 p.m. your Thursday? No, Friday. Friday. Yeah. I can tell you Friday night's going to be amazing over here. Geelong Cats won the AFL, which is my AFL team, and it was a cracking game. They won by one goal, so your evening is going to be awesome if whatever sports or whatever's happening over there does a similar thing. But Travi and I so I'm going to call you Travi because it's how we do things in Australia.
That's cool.
We throw an O or a Y on the end of everything. Connected, I was on the Struggle to Strength podcast, so you're a co-host of Struggle to Strength, but you also run a digital marketing agency, which I think is cool. So if you want to check out and follow all the links, just click the show notes below. But mate, welcome. It's 3 p.m. I know you're probably getting ready for an exciting weekend. And we were just actually saying you're, obviously starting your own business. One of the reasons why you wanted to do that was to be able to live the life that you wanted to, have a bit more control over things. And you're heading home for a month shortly. Mm-hmm. So it's the first time you've taken time away from the business. So it's going to be an interesting time. But before we dive into that, I'd love to get you to share more with everyone listening, how you got into being in the digital marketing space and everything in the lead up to that.
Totally. Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, like, it's Friday night, it's 3 p.m. Friday night. I feel like 2 years ago, maybe right now, I'd probably be like gearing up for like a crazy night, crazy night out. And then probably a crazy weekend through Monday morning. And then just a horrible Monday morning. And I no longer live that lifestyle. So Friday night, I don't really have much planned tonight. It's pretty tame. And to me personally, at this point, that's more exciting. Like, I'm so down for that. I love that it's just going to be like a chill night. And so, yeah, that's kind of how like I got into it. I worked at a various number of corporate companies and then finally like a startup after that over many years. And just really like, I always felt like the work that I was doing, it was just like something that I had to get through, you know what I mean? Like waiting for like the weekend or a vacation or whatever. And that just got increasingly more and more difficult to deal with, until it was like, yeah, it was really rough. I mean, it was, living a life where like Monday through Friday is like horrible. And then you have like 2 days off that someone else gave you, like, here you go, you get 2 days. Like, it's just, yeah, that became kind of grinding on me. And then COVID happened, which, for a lot of people ended up being like a really horrible thing. And for me, it was one of the best things that I think has ever happened to me, because it was that external force, that external power being like, things are changing. whether you know, want it or not, like it's happening. So you gotta, like, what's your next move? You know what I mean? Like I had a job where I was worked in like a really fun startup environment. It was in the cannabis industry, like the legal cannabis industry in California, like tons, just parties, like crazy parties in like Hollywood, where we'd go to these like, you know, multi-million-dollar like mansions, and like the party would be like $1 million budget and doing all this stuff. And it was exciting, but very just like, oh man, just like grinding on me. And out of nowhere, when COVID happened, I got a call Monday morning, and he's like, company's bankrupt, like stop working. Basically, we can't pay you.
How was that? How was getting that call?
Dude, it was, because I didn't expect it, you know, like I had conversations with them where like things were kind of going rough a little, you know, things were tough. And I had actually become like the head of international sales. So I was like managing all of our international sales. I had a big, I don't know, do you know Off Your Tree?
Yeah.
Like smoke shop.
Yeah.
So Off Your Tree is owned by this company called Thendro, and they're like one of the biggest distributors, like in, you know, they're one of the bigger distributors in the world of like smoking accessories. And so I had basically done like the deal with them. So we were supplying them to basically all the smoke shops in Australia. So that was like one of my biggest clients actually. And so, I'd like, you know, I'd kind of worked my way up to do all of that. But still that same feeling of and I didn't even really know necessarily what it was about it, but it was just, you know, it's just tough. And then, I got that call, and it honestly, like the first like couple seconds of that, I'm just like, oh man, like, what am I going to do? And then an hour later, it was like the best feeling ever. I was just so happy because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but, you know, I'm going to figure it out. And it was pretty much instantly that day that I realized like what I didn't like about it. Was just the structure of working for somebody else. Because when you're working for somebody else, it's not just that it's not like your whole life is structured by someone else. You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
Your whole, like everything about your time is structured. Like the fact that you've got these days off that you've accrued. Well, that's like, how can they tell you that you've accrued days off? You know what I mean? Like the entire structure of that is what was causing me to be miserable. And so I was like, all right, I need to figure out how to work for myself then. Because I had this epiphany, I guess, like this thought of going through the process of interviewing for a job again, and just how miserable that process is. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'd rather struggle and not make a lot of money and figure something out than I would do that again. And I know from time to time, again, that when I put myself in a position where I just jump off the deep end, I always figure something out. Maybe I don't do it perfectly, but I always get something done. And I've done that, you know, a number of times already. I put myself in these positions where I'm way over my head and I figure it out. So I kind of had that faith, and
it's sink or swim. And everything that you were saying, and I'm like, that sounds exactly like me. It's cool that COVID forced your hand, like, to do it. There's a lot of people who are going to a job that they hate. And as you said, you're spending at least 5 days a week there to get 2 days rest. And generally on that 2 days rest, you're so fatigued and bitter that you don't do anything you enjoy anyway. And they just keep going through that cycle and never change anything. And we sit there in the fear of, what if, you know, if I were to do this, what if I fail? It's like, we're already fucking failing because you're doing something that you hate for the majority of your time. In my eyes, that's ridiculous. And the older we get, you know, when we have a family or get a mortgage, or, you know, we take on more responsibility, it becomes harder. I'm not saying you can't do it. You definitely can do it. It's just, there's more things to consider. So, you know, having your hand forced and then backing yourself to go, I'm not going through the interview process. Because even the interview process, to have someone sit there and go, yeah, you're good or you're not. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I know my own value and I believe I'll crush whatever I do, but I'm not going to be dictated to and have someone tell me when I get time off or when I can eat lunch or when I can go to the toilet. Like, life's too short. And especially in this day and age, we have the ability to really create an incredible lifestyle. It just, like everything, it requires work, it requires risk, and it requires us backing ourselves because no one else is going to back us. They'd rather just you work for them for, in Australia, it's I think $20 an hour is minimum wage or something like that. They'd rather just pay you that and not have you be in competition or anything like that. It's absolutely crazy. But when you obviously, you went into the digital marketing space. Had you had any experience in that space prior, or were you just like, this is what interests me and wanted to get into it?
Not really. I mean, a little bit. So the company that I worked at was a startup, right? I was like the fourth person that was hired there. And I started out just doing sales. So we had an initial marketing campaign, which was focused around this like big reggae tour, the band Slightly Stupid. So we like went on tour with them for like the summer and built like a big like marketing campaign around it, because the tour goes around the United States. So every stop we'd go off, meet with smoke shops, meet with distributors, market at the shows, bring people out, like that sort of thing. And developed like a list of leads that we started to work with when the product launched. So I started off kind of doing like the sales, and then my role switched over a little bit more to marketing. So it was like, all right, we need to go heavy on social media. So I built up all of the social media channels, and that's when I started doing this more. Because I was like, I already been doing photo and video as a hobby. So I had some equipment. So I started, focusing on that more. Like I create a ton of content for social media, and work on like different strategies for building the accounts, how to run ads without being allowed to, because it's like a cannabis company, so you can't do like ads. So you have to work with influencers only. So I figured just a lot of trial and error stuff like that. And then my role switched back to like sales and distribution. But what I realized was like, is this, like I was up against like a decision, which is like work for someone else or don't work for someone else, right? That's a decision. Easy choice there. So don't work for someone else. Okay. So what am I going to do? And what I thought is the best thing that you can do is find something that the shittiest part of it, the grinding elements of it, are still something that you like to enjoy, that you can enjoy. So to put some context there, I feel like most people that listen to you probably go to the gym, right?
Yep.
For a lot of people, and inherently, like, what's lifting weights? Lifting weights is like pushing, like take a squat, for instance. You're putting yourself down low with a weight on your back. You're putting yourself in a position that could kill you. And then you're pushing up through that. So there's, a heavy squat, like, if someone put like 10,000 pounds on the squat bar, you'd die, you'd be crushed into the ground.
Done.
Yeah. Like you're putting yourself into a position where it's like, oh, I'm being pressed down by this thing, and now I have to push out of it. So there's a mental element of struggle. And then to build muscle, you're inherently tearing your muscles. So there's like, which is painful. And especially to people who just start, that could be like really painful, and it sucks being sore and all of that. So why do people like doing it? There's a lot of people who like doing it and can't get by without doing it. And so that's kind of the way I think of it. Like, that's because that's a struggle thing, or a thing that's hard that you enjoy. So if your goal is, I want to make money, what's the best way to make money? Now I'm doing this thing to make money, and all of the day-to-day tasks, you want to like blow your brains out, you're not going to be successful. Like that's horrible, unless you really enjoy running a business, and then you can just hire a bunch of people to do that. That's a little bit different. But that's the way I thought of it. Is like, all right, I'm going to start a business. I'm not in a position, or I'm in a mental space right now, or experienced enough to like be like, all right, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and start a big business. I want to start small. I want to start something and grow it from the ground up and kind of figure things out as I go. How can I make money? There's a few different things that I enjoy, but one of the things that I really enjoy, like I said, is like my hobby is like the creative, content, creating content, as they call it today.
Content hashtag.
Content creation. Yeah. Not art, content. But like photography, videography, like, I'm really big into traveling. I love traveling. I've traveled like all over the world, and I always like to create little videos and edit them. Like that's something I do for fun. I'm doing that already. Right. But it takes time and effort. So, I had made a couple real estate videos for people. And one of my friends who's like a very successful videographer was like, dude, those are good. Like you could sell those. And I was like, all right, you know what? That's the sign. Like I need to make decisions quickly right now. Fuck it. I'm going all in. So I just went, I went all in that, because the way I think of it is like, I love that creative side of it. So no matter what, the day-to-day grind of what I'm doing, I'm going to enjoy. So the money, I'll have to figure that out, as I go or later. But if I can check that off the box, like, what's the point of doing all this if you're not enjoying your life or your days? You know what I mean? Like, if you hate everything that you're doing, like, well, I don't know. To me, and everybody has to pick their goals. Like, if you come from a poor family and you want to be the first person to like create wealth, yeah, maybe maybe have miserable days to create tons of wealth, generational wealth for your family, whatever. I don't know. But for me, I just feel like, my goal there is to be able to build something but then actually like enjoy what I'm doing, So that's how I made that decision initially. It's not something like, I was like, oh, this is my lifelong passion and I've always wanted to do this. And it's just something that I realized, like, I need to work for myself, for my happiness. And if I'm going to do that, I want to do something that I enjoy, and I enjoy doing this. And then it's been really easy for me to just kind of like get things going. And like, because I'll just spend like 2 weeks straight working and researching and learning and getting better and having fun, like I don't need to take breaks from what I'm doing because I enjoy my days. You know what I mean? So it's been a lot easier to like work hard and build what I'm doing.
I wish more people had that mindset. Like I'm such a big believer now that like we should be at least doing some form of side hustle. And when I say side hustle, you don't have to monetize it, but just start doing shit that you enjoy, because far too long people are working 8 to 12 hour days in something that has the sole purpose of, paying their bills, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to pay our bills, but at some point in your life, you don't want to get to 40, 50, 60 and go, fuck, I haven't enjoyed anything over the last 40 years apart from that 1 to 2 weeks holiday a year, which I was told when I could have it. But if you're working on something on the side, when you do it enough and you enjoy it and you see the excitement, you start asking more questions, much like you did, Trav, whereas like, okay, the money will follow. And, you had a background doing sales prior to getting into the marketing. I think everyone should definitely learn sales and definitely dabble in some marketing, because that's how we sell ourselves and we show our worth. And when you get into business for yourself, you can put a price on things, which is hard to do. But it's all evolution. And if you start with something on the side, and even if it's 2 hours a week or a Saturday morning, it's going to grow. Like if you truly love it, you're going to find how to become more efficient. People are going to start noticing what you're doing. You're going to feel more fulfilled. And it's even going to make you feel better if you go back to a job that you don't like, because at least you might be doing 8 hours where it's not that exciting, but you're excited about something after work, not just getting home and going, another day. It's fucking horrible. Bless you.
Totally. Yeah. I had to cough there. No, I totally agree. And I was thinking about this a lot because I thought it's kind of interesting, like just the change in lifestyles. But maybe So I started doing this March of 2020. So it's been, just over a year basically. And by the end of last year, I realized like, I was like, oh, I just realized something. Like I haven't had, I don't know. Do you guys call them the Sunday scaries? Just like anxiety on Sunday about Monday. Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, man, I haven't had that in a long time. That used to be like a weekly thing where I just had like crazy anxiety every Sunday about the upcoming Monday. And I realized like I haven't had that. Now, one thing I do get sometimes is like burnout, where I'm like, oh man, I haven't taken a break in a long time, and I'm starting to feel like I need a break. And so that's a new struggle that I'm trying to get better at, which is the point of what we were talking about. Like I'm going home for a month. Like, it's not like I'm like running away from anything, but because I am like passionate about what I'm doing and I enjoy it. Sometimes I work too much, and sometimes like, all right, I need to take a little break, whether it's just like in the middle of the day or it's a whole day or it's a weekend or, and I think you struggle with the same thing, which is like, taking yourself away. And it's not like, I feel like I'm like held there. It's like, I want to be there, but you need to take that break. But I can tell you that, I will take, occasional burnout, as long as it's, manageable and I can do something out of it, over the Monday anxiety any day, like all day. I'll take that all day. Like
most people are living
at least
out. Yeah. Like we're burnt out from pure focus on something we enjoy, but most people are just feeling numb going through the routine of life, where it's like there's nothing super exciting except for maybe having a few beverages on a Friday night or Saturday night. But then it's like the Sunday scaries come around, get excited for Friday, but it's still just like this. I think most people are burnt out just because their life is so fucking boring. And I mean boring in a way where they're too tired to do what they really want to be doing. They're living in fear, and they feel stuck doing something that has so much control over their relationships, their finances, their time with their children, their time in the gym, that they're just, a lot of people have given up, in my opinion. And that's why I'm a big believer that, like I said, side hustles, making time for yourself it has to be a non-negotiable. And everyone's, has the ability to do it.
And I have to confirm what you're saying. I have to say that one of the reasons why I was able to, I lost my job within a couple weeks. I had like started this business. Like I was like, I made decisions very quickly. And I think one of the reasons why I was able to do that, is because I had already started a side hustle, which is like real estate investing. So the other thing that I do, like I have that business, and I have 2 rental properties. So I live in one of them and rent out the rest of it. And then the other one is just a pure like rental. But that first one, I had already, like, by the time this happened, I had already like, I'd been doing tons and tons and tons of like research on real estate, moved to Denver, found a spot that worked, bought it, moved into it, and then rented it out. So it was paying for like all of my bills. And then after that was all done, like once it was like actually working, then I lost my job. And what I realized was, so one, I was in a position where like, the $2,000 something a month that we, me and my girlfriend would be spending on a place, like we don't have that bill,
Yep.
So one, I was in a position where I'm like, all right, if I just eat ramen noodles, I can get my living expenses down to like nothing.
Yeah.
Cause I don't have, like, I own my truck. I don't have rent or anything like that. It's like we have low overhead, I guess. But 2, I had already put myself in the position of like being a boss, you know what I mean? So I've got these rentals, I've got something that I own and run and manage. And that was like a pretty big like paradigm shift, because And I think like to your point of like starting side hustle, like it's a side hustle is basically what it is. And no matter what, like if you're just if you work for somebody, and no matter what, like you could be a, you know, whatever your role is, whatever your career, whatever level you're at right now, I think that this is just like a really important, mental shift, is to like put yourself in a position, make some sort of change where you're a boss of something. So like the system that we have is like, we've got school where everybody just tells you what to do. And then you go to college where everyone just tells you what to do. And then you get a career where your manager just tells you what to do. And you're constantly in this cycle of like looking for instruction and then doing it. And just the shift of being like, okay, I'm in charge. And there's really nobody that knows how to tell me no one's going to tell me what to do. No one knows how to, you know, that's scary. But after I got used to that, it was just so much easier for me to be like, okay, I need to make this decision. Boom, let's go. You know, like I'm in charge. And I also noticed that it really helped with my job. Like just thinking that way, like first, I don't know how to describe it, but it just kind of gave me more like confidence in myself, I guess, which then helps with your performance as like an employee. Because I think at the end of the day, like a dream for a boss is for you to be autonomous and just crush it. You know what I mean? So when you put yourself in this position where you're used to being in charge, now you're the boss of your job. You know, you're not somebody who's looking for someone to just tell them what to do, because a manager or a boss doesn't want to do that. They don't want to just, maybe some of them have like issues, but like most people, like if you can just, you're the boss of your stuff and you can just go crush it. Like your life is going to be so much better if you think about things like that. And you don't necessarily be like, hey, can I have it? Like, it's like, I'm taking these days off. But if you're just crushing your job, then you can say stuff like that. You can be like, I'm taking these days off. Like, and there's nothing that, you know what I mean? Like, just be assertive, be like in control. I just think that's like that's a thing that a lot of people are missing.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. Then obviously the 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss, he talks about, even if because a lot of people as employees, they're like, no, I don't care. It's not my role. It's like, it is your fucking role. Like, own it. If you're there, own it and be the best at what you are currently doing. And then you can start calling the shots, because people know they can rely on you. They can depend on you to do the best job. And you should take pride in it anyway, just by having a standard around who you are as an individual. But the same goes with health, with relationships, with everything. We're constantly, you nailed it where you said we're looking for instructions. It's like, how do I eat well? How do I train well? It's like, well, one, if you don't know, get a coach, but start taking ownership for the sessions. Or if you got a nutritionist, start taking ownership for what they're telling you. So, because no one knows what feels good for you, what works well for you like you do. If you're relying on someone to understand what's going on in your head, good luck. It's just with anything, finance, what you did where you started investing in real estate and learning all of that. If you were waiting for instructions, people probably would have said, don't invest in real estate until you've had.
They did.
Got
they
money.
Told me.
Yeah, fuck. And so you do things differently. So for anyone listening, if you struggle with, alcohol or nutrition or anything that you're struggling with, ask yourself, are you taking responsibility or ownership for doing the best you can to understand and implement what you need to implement to get the results that you want? Because I guarantee you're not. I guarantee you're waiting for someone to put a hand out and say, it's all right, mate, I got you. Because no one's fucking doing that at all.
Yeah. And I don't even really know totally how to describe it. It's like you have to put yourself in that position to know what I'm talking about. But I just say that, like, I think there's like a boss area of your brain, or like a boss muscle, for instance. And like if you think about it, think back to when you're like a little kid, right? You always think like, oh, my parents have the answer, or my teachers have the answer. And then like, if you think about it, like, that thought like really stays with you your whole life. Like my parents will tell me what to do. My parents have the answer. My parents know what to do. replaced with my teacher, replaced with my boss, right? Or like the government knows what to do. Like they know how to, like the president knows what to do. And the fact of the matter is like, I've never been in a position like that, obviously, but I know like the way one thing is the way other things are. And I know that when you get higher up, when you get to like there's like a certain level in life where like there's the clouds right here, right? There's the clouds and everything underneath of it is like more simple things. And anything down there, there's someone that you can reach to say, what do I do? I don't know what to do. So what do I do? Right. And then when you work your way up and you get above the clouds, you're in a place where no one knows what to do. Nobody knows the answer to that question. You like whatever question you are asking, it's not that like people might tell you this or tell you that. It's that there is no answer. You have to create the answer. It's up to you. You have to do it. And with with the real estate stuff, that was the first time I was ever really in that position, because I was always like, all right, even with my startup job was a lot more autonomous, and I ended up, being in control of things. But you always come back to the group and develop a plan, and then there's a boss or a CEO or an executive or whatever who makes the decision. You know what I mean? There's always that element. And with real estate, I got myself in that position where it was like, dude, I kept having these decisions and I'm like, fuck, how do I know what to do? And I would just start calling everybody that I knew that invested in real estate, and no one knew the answer. Like, I don't know. I just found it very interesting. It's like, you have to just, when it comes to like your own life, your own happiness, your own like fitness, those are like kind of the same things. You get up to this point where it's like, you're the one who really has to make the decisions. And if you're always looking for somebody else to kind of like tell you what to do, you're really missing like the point. Like, you're the one who has to like do that. So I don't know.
It's like
whether it is just creating a side hustle or something.
Yeah, well, it's what you said there was like doing your due diligence, and sometimes you mightn't get the exact answer you're looking for, but at the end of the day, with the accumulation of the information that you have, you need to make the decision, and you need to be okay with the consequences, whether it's positive or negative. I see people with crypto, right, who everyone's looking for like a new safe moon or some coin that's just going to pop, and they want to be the millionaire. And if it gets a little bit of growth, they're fucking talking all about it and they're saying how smart they are. And then if it doesn't, they're blaming fucking Joe Blow, who they got the information from. It's like, mate, you decided to put your money there. That's your fault. That's your responsibility. Own it, wear it, move on. Stop bitching. Let's go. And I think I still remember, I think it was back in 2016, and I had no money back in 2016. I was using a credit card. I couldn't even have a credit card, but I was borrowing money. And there was a course called the Money Mindset or something like that. And it was $3,000, which was huge at the time. And I was like, I need to do it, but I didn't do any due diligence. This was the first time I ever learned how to do due diligence. I got to this program, and every time he asked a question about money and you had like a rebuttal, or you had something that you're like, nah, he made you go sit on a mattress for fucking 20 minutes and think about it. I'm like, what is this? This is ridiculous. And we had people sued him after. I didn't sue him. Like, I was just like, well, I chose to put my money there. I'm going to learn from that. And now I know for future investing in coaches or mentors or anything to do more due diligence around, get reviews, pros and cons. What am I expecting myself? Like, setting intention. What do I want to get out of this experience? So that when I go in there, I can, be 100% certain in my decision. Obviously, nothing's guaranteed, but knowing that I've done what I feel I needed to do to back my decision. But too many people are just like, oh, I just read an ad and it said millionaire mindset or whatever. That's going to be good. I'll do that.
Yeah.
And same, with crypto even. It's like people are just throwing money, and it's like, well, maybe you should learn to invest in crypto. Like, do some research, spend hundreds of hours learning about it before you just give away your hard-earned money.
Yeah. And this is like, man, I don't even, this time that we're living in is insane with the industry of information. It's like the information age. You know what I mean? There was the Industrial Revolution. This is the information revolution, because people really don't even understand how like big it is. So anything that you could possibly think of that you want to do, like all of the information is so easily available online. You could, there between Google and YouTube, between like Google blogs and YouTube, it's all there. And then what's really cool is there's even people who have already done it and experts that you can pay, like coaches, or people that have online courses that you can pay, honestly, like basically like nothing to. Like if you pay someone like a few $100s or a few $1,000s to give you literally step-by-step instructions of how to do this thing successfully, I mean, and then you make like money do it, like that's ridiculous. You used to have to pay $100,000 to go to college and maybe not even learn it right. Not even learn it from someone who's done it. You know what I mean? You're paying somebody $400 who's already done this thing to teach you how to do it. That's like a steal. Like that's like the bet. I mean, the ability to have all this stuff so easily is insane. So, and I think people really don't even know that. And so, I mean, this is like the time, man. It's really, if you have something that you want to do or that you want to figure out, I mean, that's what I did. I made that decision, and then I did research, and I had already been through, like I said, I had already gotten practice on this from I guess my job as well, because it was like a startup. I had to figure things out. And then real estate, like I already kind of got the process down of like, all right, how do I find answers for things that like on my own? How do I come up with, you know what I mean? Like if you own a house, you don't just like hire the first plumber that you see. You have 5 contractors come over and have them analyze it. You get their bids, and then you do research on each one. And then you say like, okay, like how do things mess up here? Then you try to find somebody that who's got a good connection. Like you need to do like your due diligence and your research. But you can so easily do that now with information. Any sort of side hustle, any sort of thing that you want to do, it's so easy to like get the information now to do it. It just takes work, and you have to have an idea,
It's great. Yeah, mate, you're spot on. Like I've got a program, the Breakthrough Experience. It's a 6-week program. It's $597 Aussie. So not even US, Aussie. And I've spent since about 2014, this is not including life experience and education, but over 120,000 Australian dollars on my own development. Right. So when people go look at it and they go $597, I'm like, exactly what you said. It's like there's $120,000 worth of education in there, plus the compounding of experience, education before that, connections, community that come on top of it. Like that for me is priceless. Like I paid my coach last year $30,000 to do exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing it for $100 a month within our program. And it's for me, I was like, okay, I know what I want to get out of it. I want this plus network. Like network is so powerful because you can learn from people who are working towards similar things around their own experiences, their own setbacks, their own way of thinking, and it fast tracks your success. Like what took me 8 years to achieve, I could literally teach someone in 6 weeks. And I truly believe that. So if someone said to you, Ryder, do you want to get this result in 8 years or do you want to get it in 6 weeks? What do you think people are going to say? But people don't think about that when they're looking for stuff, or most people don't. It's like, why the fuck do we go to uni for 4 years when you could find a lot of the stuff on YouTube and you just go through it as fast as you want now? You just obviously don't get the piece of paper, which sucks.
And but it's also just, but I mean, think you could create your own piece of paper, right? You could create a certification for people just to put like, if that's something that's valuable, I'm sure like, more and more people are going to be doing that. But yeah, and I think it's better. Personally, the ones that I've done, I think they're better than school. Like I didn't learn anything in college, and I don't even want to think about the amount of money that I spent. but I don't know if I learned anything. Like I built an awesome network.
Yep.
And so it's worth it for that. Like I don't regret anything. Like I built an amazing network, like, and I had such a good time. Like it was such an awesome time in my life. But yeah, I mean, for me, education wasn't even a factor there at all. Like I didn't start learning. I don't really feel like I started learning until like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Until well after I graduated college. Like it just wasn't like focused on that stuff, you know? And that's what it comes down to. Honestly, like you have to be you have to like want to do it. You know, you can talk all day. Anybody can talk all day about the stuff that they're going to do or that they want to do. And personally to me, like if I'm talking to someone and then they're like, so I'm thinking like next year, like, I don't even want to hear the rest of that sentence. Honestly, like I'm starting to say shit like that. Be like, dude, what are you even saying? Like talk about the things that you have done and that you're doing. I don't want to hear about shit that you might do next year if this happened. Like that's nothing. That's literally like nonsense. Like you know, the only like now be present. What is happening now? What are you going to do right now? What are you doing? And that's like cause I used to be like that a lot, like talk about all the, you know what I mean? And that stuff. Yeah, you gotta make a decision today of what you're going to do and start putting the pieces in and start moving forward. Stop thinking about things, like just start doing things. It's
we all know those people who come back, you know, you might have mates, or I used to be this person where every week you've got something different that you're going to be doing, but you never actually implemented what you said you were going to do last week or the week before. It's fine if you're taking action on things, you're getting feedback and you're going, yeah, that's not for me. I'm going to go to the next thing. That's fine. That's what I did with jobs for a very long time until I figured out what I wanted to do. But there's people who sit 1 week, they're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to invest in this. And then 2 weeks later, when you catch up, like had to go with the such and such. Oh, I didn't do it. But this week I'm doing this. And you're like, bro, you're that I'm going to guy. I just start doing things. You're going to gain so much just from taking action. Like the feedback, the experience will, you know, be so crucial to you creating the results that you want, whether it's changing who you are as a person, creating the career or whatever it is that you're looking to improve upon. But people get stuck. But for yourself, like the Struggle to Strength podcast, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on the podcast, but I'd love to know for yourself, what got you into wanting to do the podcast and obviously the struggle behind it that led you to going, yep, I'm keen as, because I know when we spoke on your podcast, you never had a rock bottom moment like a lot of people. You were just self-aware enough to go, I'm not going to just allow people to dictate my life. I'm going to be the creator and the owner of what outcomes I get. So what led you to the struggle prior to launching that podcast?
So I guess the way I do things, or the way I have done a lot of things, like I said, is I just take action pretty much. And so a lot of times I'll start things that aren't even fully thought through, and I just figure them out as I go, because I know like this is the general direction I need to go, and I can sit around thinking about it, talking about it all day, but like, let's go, let's just take action. And so that's honestly like how we started the podcast. You know, I had my media business. I was working with Josh. Josh is like an old friend of mine. We went to college together, like really, you know, we've known each other forever. And I started doing all of his content. He's an online coach, and we had just talked, like we would always, you know, get together and just like have crazy conversations and talk about all the things that we talk about on our podcast. And so we were like, you know, we had the idea of starting a podcast. And, you know, I'm like, I'm in a position to handle like all the media. We can be co-hosts, like, let's do it. And that's really how we started it. And the idea behind it is like, all right, we're both, you know, kind of in similar positions. We had these moments of struggle that we came out of, and now we're building our businesses and like trying to figure it out. So let's talk about that stuff. Like, the best way to learn is to do or to teach. And so by like talking about the things that we're like dealing with, it has been like massively helpful for us, and a big period of growth for us, having these conversations, meeting these people. So that's really like how it started. It was just like, we want to start putting ourselves out there. We want to start, like building a community. We want to start learning from other people who have done what we're doing. And we want to like hear these stories and get them out there, because we know people are going to be interested in them. And know that, like, if you hear a story that's similar to yours and it helps you, like, that's like one person that we've helped, and we've been able to do that. So, that's really why it started. We're both like very action taking people. We talked about something that we want to do, and then we just started it the next day, basically.
So wicked. It's so important. Just talk, like, one of the most powerful things is just talking about what you're experiencing, like the good, the bad, the ugly, because as you mentioned, there are people out there who have been through similar things, and just by having the conversation, they might say one thing that solves the biggest problem you've been banging your head against the wall about for the last 6 months. Or they might say one thing that makes you go, I'm not the only one who thinks like that. Maybe I'm not weird. It's normal.
Right.
And all of us, you don't need to have a podcast to do that for everyone listening. You can just start having those conversations in your day-to-day life. Like, it's just the power of communication. I think it's something that has been lost over time because we've been told we need to toughen up, suck it up, and just get on with life. And also, a lot of us live extremely busy lives where we don't make time to just stop and connect. Like, I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and he was, all of his episodes are like 3 hours plus long. And he's like, so many people just don't have the ability to have a long conversation. It gets weird and awkward, and they run out of stuff to talk about because we don't practice it.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't practice having a conversation for longer than 10 minutes that's not about work.
Yeah.
And so we can all start doing that in day-to-day life. Like, sit down with your mates, put your phones in the middle of the table, face down, just catch up, see how long that lasts for. Like, can you get it going for an hour? Can you get it going for 2 hours and shoot the shit? Have some fun.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No. Yeah. And yeah, that's what we wanted to do with the podcast, is just like have these conversations. And it's, it started from a place of like, how can we, connect with people and learn to, learn from each other. Like, every time we have a podcast, I feel like we, there's the two of us and then a guest, or just me and Josh talking. And I can just feel like there's so much like learning going on there. You know what I mean? You've got, because everybody that we have on is like similar to us in some way, maybe not in every way, but in some ways. Or they're very different, and we can find similarities, but it's just such a powerful like transfer of information, which is what I love about it. And then, we hear from like our listeners that it's helps them. And I think, yeah, like everybody should be having those conversations more with each other. And also, like, I started everything by listening to podcasts. Like, listening to those conversations is powerful as well. Like, it goes hand in hand with what we talked about before. Like, all the information is out there, even about like, about everything. Like, there's tons of podcasts, options that you can almost be a part of that conversation. That's why Joe Rogan's podcast blew up, is because it's like you're in you're just watching a conversation between these amazing people. That's super powerful as well. So yeah, I love it. I love it for that.
It's epic. Hey, what are some of the struggles you've had since, you started working for yourself, March 2020? So just over a year ago. But
hasn't been that long.
What are some of the struggles that you've experienced at that point, and why haven't you quit? So I guess we've sort of touched on why you haven't quit because you love it and stuff, but some of the struggles, has there been any where you've questioned, why am I doing this? It would be easy to get a job again.
I think one of the struggles that I initially got into is I'm making less money than I was, so there's that shock of like, all right, my paycheck was here, now it's here.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why I haven't quit is because I have like multiple things going on. I'm not just dependent on that one thing. I have like, I set myself up in a position with like, with real estate investing. So I have some income coming in from that. And like I said, my bills are very low. So it's easy for me to like make less money and still be fine, so that's definitely a struggle. And then also the struggle of just like, I don't know, I think it's kind of like a benefit and a struggle, I guess. It's just different, but like not like having to like, sometimes you get that feeling of, you're like, like you get just a weird like wave of like, oh shit, like it's my, like I have to do it, like yep. I have to like, whatever it is, like find new clients. So things like I'm going to go take a month off. So I'm probably not actually going to take a month off, but I'm going to be away from my office for a month.
Yep.
So what's the first thought that comes to mind? Like, is my entire business going to collapse and fail? Like that's one of the biggest struggles, is like, whenever you run into something, it's like, people, you don't really have that thought if you're an employee, like, but in reality, you're in way more risk because you only have one source of income, and any company of any size could collapse and fail at any time, and they'll fire your ass. They don't give a shit about you. So you're actually in more risk, but you never think about that. And I think with me, like, I think about it, like, I think about it like from time to time. So that's just been something to like, that I have to deal with. And then just like imposter syndrome, of just being like, whenever I'm in a situation, just being like, whoa, like, do I deserve to like be here? And that's just a whole other, struggle to deal with. Yeah. But I think most of it's really just like mental, like with yourself, and just not giving up, because it's so easy to just give up, Yeah,
well, I think because it's so easy to start a business now compared to what it used to be, whether it's online or something, the overheads aren't as high. So it's, because there's not much outlay, it's also just as easy to pack it up and just move on with life. I think, as you touched on there, it's like we just need to not give up. You need to have a bit of grit, bit of resilience, and just be committed to what you're doing. And it always helps when you're doing something that you love rather than just something that you're doing purely for money. But I got one
and like just learn about.
You go, bro.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're good.
No, I was just gonna say, like, learn, like, if you are trying to do that, like, understand that you're gonna like, I think learning how to manage finances, or like learn about financial freedom, learn about financial literacy, and figure out how to like set your life up in a way that you're not just blowing money with no comprehensive like responsibility of where it's going. And that's going to make, if you are in a position where you're like, I want to quit my job and do the thing, well, guess what? It's going to be hard, and you're not going to make as much money at first. And if you put yourself if beforehand, you read a few books, listen to some podcasts, get involved in some blogs, learn about financial literacy, learn about, they call it like the FIRE movement, like financial independence, retire early. Like that whole community is built around the idea of like not having high living expenses so that you can save money and invest, all of that stuff. Like learn about that stuff, and then kind of set things up in a way that you don't have like 30 grand of credit card debt and just constantly like blowing money. And you've got this like $1,000 a month car payment that you can't afford and huge rent. Like get some of that shit in order first before you do it. And I think it'll literally that might be the reason why you're able to do it or succeed. Like that's huge. So many people are just irresponsible with that stuff. So I would recommend that for sure.
100%. One last question for you. And I never prepare anyone for this one, so don't get nervous. What is your definition of being a man? And I ask everyone for their own independent one, because as you'd know from running your own podcast, right? Every guest you have on, people resonate with their stories, and there is a stereotype around what it is to be a man, and it might be different to the US to here. But there's a lot of blokes who sit back and go, I don't fit into that. And I was one of those people. So it's always cool hearing other people's perspective on that.
Yeah. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Simple. Mate, he's an animal, eh? He's the fucking greatest dude to follow on social media.
Yeah. No, he actually is though. Cause like I was just saying that because you mentioned like America, and like that's probably the way people think, like physically looking like specimen like that. That's probably what people think. But I think actually he is like that guy's a great example or role model. Cause like, dude, he like, look at the stuff he used to do, like the photo with him in the turtleneck with like the necklace on. And like, he did so many stupid, embarrassing things, and he just like didn't give up.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and he doesn't even give a shit, you know, he's like, whatever, like he's been roasted so much for like, he's in the WWE, like the WWE in general is corny, you know, but like, he just doesn't care, like, because he knows who he is. So I don't really know what a good definition of it is, but that's kind of what I think of.
Yeah, 100%. He's a role model, mate. He's certain in himself, confident. I love him. He's the man.
Yeah.
I still remember watching him in the WWE. My dad was a full-time froth lord on it. He really loves it. And I was like, I don't understand why you like it, but I love The Rock.
It's entertaining. It's fun.
It's wild, but that's for the 90s people. Mate, where can everyone find you? It's been a pleasure having you on, and you're doing some great stuff, and your podcast is fucking epic as well. So I'd highly recommend guys go have a listen to Struggle to Strength as well. But where can everyone find you, Travi?
Yeah, the podcast is Struggle to Strength podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, and then it's on YouTube as well. We are also on Instagram at Struggle to Strength, like with the number 2. Yep. So go check that out. For me, I don't have my website up and running yet, but you can find me on Instagram at Travis Hawks Media, and YouTube as well as Travis Hawks. But Instagram is definitely the best place to find me at Travis Hawks Media.
All right. I'll put all of those show notes, all of those links and everything in the show notes. So it's just one easy click away to go have a stalk. It's crazy how easy it is to stalk these days. Hey? Stock it up. Get amongst it. Well, mate, thank you so much for your time coming on, and I look forward to staying in touch, and enjoy your month away. Look forward to hearing how it goes for you, because I should probably do something similar to test it, but I'm just scared, man. But I guess that's something we got to grow. It's tough. Right? Yeah, man. I'm just trying to set that as like the non-negotiable. Like, I'm doing this, and everything else will fit around that. And maybe everything falls apart, but most likely it's not going to, and it's going to be all good. So I'll touch base with you afterwards and see how it went for me. Epic, brother. Well, thanks again for your time.